Hello, and welcome to the Cherry Blossom Cafe podcast. I'm your host, Lynn Williams. This show is all about uncovering life's mysteries about money. If you've ever wondered how other people manage their money or the money mistakes they've made, well, that's exactly what we're going to talk about here. We'll uncover these mysteries and more. On this episode, we talk to Kendall Ansell. Kendall is an award-winning design expert. She has provided insight and tips on seasonal trends and easy renovation projects in Western Living, BC Living, the Vancouver Sun, and others. She's designed a capsule collection of pillows with Jus Design. She has also collaborated with such brands as Hono Mobo, the Vancouver Home and Design Show, the BC Home and Garden Show, and Flowform Interiors. With a growing team of passionate, creative individuals, Kendall has continued to develop her business as a leading interior design firm that creates dream spaces for her clients. But today, she's going to share with us how she looks at money, and we're excited to have her with us today. Welcome, Kendall. Okay, great. It's great to have you here today, Kendall. And we like to get kicked off with the first question being, what was your first job?
Yes, this is a really interesting one. My very first job was at A&W.
Woohoo, that's great.
Yes, fast food.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I started, but I feel like back then you could get your parents to sign for you to start working.
Oh, right.
So it was before 16.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah, and it was only because it filled time.
Yeah.
Life was a bit boring.
So you mean it wasn't your lifetime ambition to be working at A&W?
Well, yeah. No, it was fun. My friends worked there.
Yes, I was going to say, were your friends working there? Because that's, yeah. A little known secret about me is I started at McDonald's because my friend said, do you want to work? And I said, sure. Yeah. So that's how I got started at McDonald's. So that was great. Yeah.
Totally.
And it was great grounding because they're great training grounds. So that was good.
And, you got to be on time and look professional and you have to handle money. It's good. Mm-hmm. It's good all around, I think.
Oh, great. Yeah. But then how did you get started in your business and your profession of interior design? Yeah.
So if you've read a bio about me, you can see that my dad was in construction. Yeah. So my brother and I, as I say in most interviews, were the cheap labor at the end of the broom or digging holes or, helping lay baseboard. Those kinds of things. So we definitely grew up in kind of the building and construction industry. And then coming out of school, I was like, I want a profession that's going to make me some money. So I'm going to become an accountant, which I failed miserably at and ended up taking a few nighttime drafting classes and fell in love with that. So that's kind of the gateway of how I ended up at Kwantlen for drafting and then soon interior design after that. Oh, great.
And then what was your first job in interior design?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think my first job would have been at Olympia Tile.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed working there because you kind of got to see bits and pieces of everybody's project and, got to meet a few people in the industry and, kind of really figure out what was going on kind of in the building community from that side of the industry.
Oh, exciting. Yeah. And you would have seen some beautiful things too. With tiles can be absolutely stunningly beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah, and the cool thing about Olympia is it kind of sits in that middle ground price to low price point. So you do get, you have stuff for people that is affordable, but then you can also kind of go a little upscale with them as well, which is cool.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, great insight for your own business too.
Yeah, for sure.
So then once you started gaining momentum in your career, then how did you handle your money?
Great question, Lynn. As my financial advisor.
Yes, I know.
Just kidding. So the word wealth, I guess, to me is not necessarily in the money, the actual money, but it's more in
very good point,
the team.
Kendall. Yeah.
Yeah, the team, being able to build a team, being able to have an office space that can handle growth. Like my first office space was a desk in a communal shared workspace, where I could have, no samples, no binders. Like I just had a work surface. So I think, my version of wealth is definitely being able to have a home base that is consistent and have, great staff members. That's kind of how, what I've done with the wealth part of it.
That's great. And I think that's a really good point too, that you're positioning yourself for further growth.
Yeah, for sure. And, now people are getting to know us. So we have some sponsorships going on with Urban Barn, and we've kind of been working with those guys. So that's, again, building that wealth, that inner wealth I have.
Yeah. And building relationships too. That's great.
Yeah.
So over the years, were there any big money mistakes?
No, there's never any mistakes.
No.
There's some accidents, but never mistakes.
And maybe some lessons.
You know what? I think that early on I didn't invest greatly enough in photography. I didn't invest enough in like website development, kind of overall graphic design, overall presentations. I think a big thing that young business owners do is their contracts aren't looked over by, their lawyers or a lawyer at all. So those are just little things that I feel like, having a good accountant, having contracts that are solid and actually pertain to your business instead of something off the internet. I mean, those are all kind of like mistakes, I would say, early on, and that's just from lack of knowledge. And those are
and it's seeking help where you may not have strengths is a really good point.
Totally. And I think it's knowing that I'm never going to be good at that stuff, and just kind of letting that go, letting someone else do it.
So that's really good too, just being honest with yourself about where your strengths are, what you have time for, what you really want to do, what you really want to learn, and pass other things off to other people who it's their strength.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Cool.
So those I would say are my big mistakes, but I feel like they're learning mistakes. And fortunately not something that's talked about a lot in business. It's, I think this is a great question, because, what did you do wrong early on? I think we're all still doing things incorrectly in different areas, but those are just some, I would say, growing, like things about growth that, you kind of clue into.
Yeah, for sure. That's great. So do you have an investing philosophy?
I think my biggest one is just investing in the people that are around me.
Yeah.
And because they're the most important thing that the business has, and treating them fairly and respectively is the most important thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it will help you to grow too, for the future. Yeah. Do you have a take on philanthropy or giving back?
I do. It's something that's actually come up a lot lately. What are you going to be involved in? What are you going to be doing? You always need to be giving back. And recently, taking part and being on the Loud Foundation was a big thing for me. And, kind of involving myself just in community and, kind of what makes Vancouver and the Lower Mainland, Vancouver and Lower Mainland, being in the GBHBA, all those things is kind of my give back. I'm going to be looking at some things in the future, because I went through a bout of postpartum with my child. So we're kind of looking at a few different avenues for the Postpartum Society as well.
And so for people who don't know about the Loud Foundation, what's that? What is the Loud Foundation?
Yeah, so it's the business foundation for the LGBTQ community. And it is based in Vancouver, and they have really great business events. They have really great community events. You can find them at Pride. Surrey Pride is actually coming up. You can find them kind of participating in LGBTQ community events. And it's a really great organization for people in business, especially young professionals in business, because you can really get some great connections.
Okay, great. And then you mentioned GBHA.
It's the Greater Vancouver Home Builders Association.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So we take part and try to be involved in what they're up to as well.
Okay, great. That's awesome. So, good. So now that you have children, how have they factored into your financial planning?
Yeah, for sure. I think that this is, again, a question that kind of is one of those money mistake things. Is, again, it's investing in people to help me kind of do my day-to-day so that I'm able to spend more time with him. I think there was definitely a give up of some of the things that I used to do for the business that I'm just not able to do anymore. And, that obviously is giving up some of my hours spent on the business and things like that. But I think it's just about finding a healthy balance between home and being with my kid and, being with my other kid, which is my business.
Yeah. And that's a really good way of putting it. It really is, becomes a baby then grows up a little bit and becomes demanding and as a toddler and then as a young person and as a teenager. Yeah.
For sure.
Very similar.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say that, definitely with my type of business, financial planning is just mainly just moving the responsibilities that I have to the business and kind of delegating them to different people so that I can spend more time with Fraser.
That's awesome. So, down the track, one piece of advice you'd like to give Fraser.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is just to follow your passion and your dream. And I think following your dream and your passion, then you'll always be wealthy and you'll always be happy.
That's good. I mean, there's also the burden of choice, which can be very difficult if, to try and choose what that future path or that future dream might be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think a lot of people have a lot of passions, but they're probably, and they can probably use their passions in different ways. But I think as long as you're doing that, then he will forever be happy. Even if right now he looks like he belongs in the circus because he's a toddler, but he will be very happy in the circus.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. So is there any advice that you'd give to your younger self about money?
That's a really good question. I think that I didn't financially plan and budget enough as a younger person. At one point, I was working a few different jobs. I worked at Rogers Arena. I worked selling lighting and plumbing. So I was doing Rogers Arena at night and then working full time during the day. And, I really should have been putting aside more and kind of budgeting better. And that's just something that I didn't really clue in my early 20s. And I kind of wish that, I would have put some of those more foundation pieces in place for later life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great observation because we start to earn money, start to feel like we're flush with cash. We start to feel like we're going to live forever as well. And this is just going to be the way it is. But then we start to get responsibilities or like yourself, you start a business, things ebb and flow that we don't necessarily plan for when we have a steady cash flow.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. Good point.
So I think that I did start when I was younger, putting away a little bit, as a little bit of money into my RRSP every month.
Yeah.
And that was just something that I read in a How to Be Rich by 30 book or something like that. So that definitely was helped in purchasing my first house, but it's, something that I think that not everybody gets that advice. And, they don't think like, oh, I should only be going out for dinner twice a week and not 3 times a week. And if I did this with this money, I could get this. And just think there's not enough guidance. And that, first move out of the house, you think you need everything. It's just a snowball of things.
Yeah. Those are some really good points. Yeah, Kendall. So now thinking forward, to your future, what advice would you want to give your older self about money?
Yeah. And I think that this is kind of the flip of this. And I think it's more about budgeting and future planning that, you and I have talked about extensively, but kind of coming up with a plan and goals and, planning for Fraser's future as well. And just kind of understanding like where we want to be in the next 20 years and kind of what we see ourselves doing. I think that's something, my husband and I have kind of come to the realization of once we've moved to a few different places and we've lived right in the middle of the city. And one thing we noticed is like, what do we do on weekends? Basically, we like to cook meals and we like to go for walks, and that doesn't necessarily need to happen in the city. So which is why we don't live in the city anymore. But I think in the future, kind of like, what does the future look like for us and, activity wise, what we want to be doing, and just kind of planning it out a little bit better.
That's an excellent point, because we often get so caught up in our day to day that we don't step back and say, what is it that we really like to do? Where do we really like to spend our time? And where do we see that being able to do that best for us and our family? It's sometimes hard to, kind of take the time to do that and see that, which is a fantastic insight into setting a future compass and then working towards it. Yeah. Which is
for sure. I think if you love to hike and we're in North Van, that's the place for you, Yeah. But if you love to hike and you're, for example, in Richmond, well, maybe you should consider the move. So I think it's just,
Yeah, really great points. So awesome. Well, I've just loved chatting to you today, Kendall. It's always great to hear from you, and thank you for taking the time. And I look forward to chatting very soon.
Thanks so much, Lynn. This was great.
Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to the Cherry Blossom Cafe podcast. You can check out the notes below for links related to this podcast. If there is someone you'd like us to interview, we'd love to hear from you. Visit our website, lifestyleprotector.ca, for contact information and more episodes.